Welcome to Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Pearl Shur, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of three, to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. Clean eating emphasizes consuming whole, unprocessed foods, essentially real foods, as close to their natural state as possible. This approach includes fresh fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, and healthy fats, while minimizing highly processed snacks and packaged foods laden with added sugars and salt. The clean eating philosophy is often linked to plant-based, grass-fed, sugar-free, or gluten-free terms. Beyond the gut-brain connection, our foods significantly impact our energy levels, motivation, and brain chemistry. Emerging research suggests that a healthy diet can enhance protection against depression as well as anxiety. The bottom line is we need to be mindful of what we're eating. We need to think about it. Rather than restricting ourselves to strict diets, let's focus on making intelligent substitutions. Make cooking and food preparation enjoyable for you and your family so that eating actually becomes a source of nourishment and joy. Today, I'm fortunate enough to have the incredible Mareya Abraham on my show. Chef Mareya, as she is known, is a clean eating expert, author, and wellness advocate. The Fit Foodie is on a mission to help people live their best lives with a fit lifestyle at every age. She has impacted hundreds of thousands of lives over her 30-plus year career in the health and wellness space, with best-selling books including the #1 new release of Eat Like You Give a Fork, I love that name, The Real Dish on Eating to Thrive. She was also the signature chef to the New York Times million-copy bestseller, The Daniel Plan, 40 Days to a Healthier Life. Chef Mareya has also been featured on numerous major media outlets, appearing on some of our favorite TV shows like The Doctors, as well as the Food Network and the Recipe Rehab. Fun fact about her, she recently participated again in her second bikini fitness competition. And she is just showing us that she has a special heart for empowering women to take back the reins on their health and show that midlife can actually be the best time of your lives. Welcome to Female Fluence, Mareya.
Thank you so much, Pearl. I'm so happy to be here. I love your podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have you. Let's go start getting to know you better. If you can kind of tell us about your background and how you are where you are today.
It's been quite a journey. I definitely started in a place and I'm in a place now that I think if you would have told me 20, 30 years ago, I'd be like, what? What are you talking about? I will say I've always, food's always played such a huge role in my life. I'm Middle Eastern, and us Middle Eastern folk live and breathe food. We gather around the table with our family and friends, and we eat breakfast, planning lunch. We eat lunch, planning dinner, and it's all an event. From a young age, I can just recall like my fondest memories, the laughter in the kitchen, all the generations gathered together around the table, and it was a special time, magic really. And even just going into the marketplace and sourcing ingredients with my grandfather and my aunts and my mom and my dad and my grandfather, and having it be like just this amazing event. And so food's always played a huge role, but I really didn't understand the significance of the health impact that
Mhm.
food has until I struggled with a significant eating disorder. And I
How,
think
how old were
that's,
you when that happened?
yeah, that really hit around, I'm gonna say age 17.
Yeah, that's usually
Um,
that's that rough age, right? Yeah.
like at the time, the whole waif look was in. They called it heroin chic, which is kind of crazy to think that that was a thing. I wish it was times now because I feel like much healthier standard, women with curves and
Yes.
muscles, and
Yeah.
that's really like the template that we have now, but that was not the case then. It was like the skinnier the better. And it was such an unhealthy ideal that we were all chasing. So that's really where it started, but took me on this twisted journey to get to where I am now, and really trying to help empower people to live well and eat well.
You were telling us more about how your personal relationship. It's interesting too because I'm actually Persian, and so food and traditions and cooking and eating, it's the entire event, right? That and
Yeah.
it's really important to sit down and eat together and cook together and not just like, let's grab something quick, eat it in the car. I feel like that's kind of like the culture is right now, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's so rushed. Everyone's not, you're not even really thinking about. And what I heard you say once is like, we need to eat with intention. When we're all rushed, we are not really eating with intention, right? So tell us a little bit more why it's so important to, I mean, we're told to do everything mindfully, but why do we need to actually even eat mindfully?
Until you've done it, I don't know if people really understand the significance of time at the table and how it affects our digestion, how it affects the signals that our
Mhm.
brain sends to our stomach telling us that we're full, how we process and taste the food, because these are all parts of eating. Oftentimes, like we've got our technology in one hand and we've got the fork in the other.
Yes.
It's just like shoveling it in. And we don't even, by the time we're done, we're like, what did we even eat? There's no connection to the nourishment. And, there are pathways that signal from the brain to our gut and gut to brain, the brain gut axis, that is like a telepathic port of health. So if we're not really registering anything that we're eating, how do we intentionally like allow it to build us and heal us and make us stronger? I think it's really sad that we have kind of reduced food to this like it's this thing that you do. Some people do it begrudgingly. Some
Yeah.
people do it like just on the fly without, it's just all about cheap food, fast food. And we miss the blessing in it. We miss the blessing if we don't take time and give care to it and honor it. Like, I'm a big believer, if you eat animals, we should be thanking the animal for its life. We should be like, in gratitude for the land that gave us this
So
food
true.
to eat. All of that is energy. All of that is feeding a different part of us. And we miss the blessing if we don't do it intentionally and lovingly and with other people. I've really experienced that in my life.
I love that. I love the blessing idea. And that just comes back to like actually sitting around a table together and being mindful. I mean, I think you see that happening like on TV shows or whatnot. If it's like Thanksgiving, it's like once a
Yeah,
year, right?
yeah,
We're
yeah.
thankful for this food, but what about the rest of the time, right?
I'm sympathetic to people's schedules. Like,
Yes.
we also have life and people are in different seasons. Some people are in the season of having young children and, you know,
So you're just
it's
surviving.
it's challenging. It's just survival. I
Yeah.
get it. I've been there. But I think it's, even if it's chaotic, even if it's like a picnic on the floor. I remember when I was a single mom and we were really stretching the dollar, and we didn't have much extra at all. We didn't have any extra. And I would try and make it fun and we'd spread a blanket out on the floor and we'd pretend like, we were at a picnic or, we would do things that just felt special even without a lot. and there's creative ways to do it. I think you just have to like be open to the part that is, it's not about the fancy food, it's
Yeah.
about the people. And when you come into communion with each other, it changes how you receive the food.
Yes, yes, that's very true. What would you say to someone like I know, like how could we can help do the taste bud reset? Because there's a lot of us that, our palates are just known to certain things. So how is there a way that we can actually retrain our palate with foods that can nourish us? Because I know, I mean, not even just toddlers or kids, but there's adults that it's like, oh, I don't eat vegetables, or I hate tomatoes, or oh, like it's like they're just
Yeah.
addicted to all this sugary, unhealthy food, which is, I mean, I'm like, is there hope? Is there a way, even as an adult, to be able to actually
Yeah.
backtrack and retrain them with, okay, you're going to actually start to like the greens?
Yes, there is absolutely a way. And I have to tell you this crazy story that happened today. I took my son out to breakfast and we were sitting there. We were sitting at an outdoor cafe and the waiter had cleared the table but left the little sugar packets
Yeah.
on the table. And it was brown sugar and stevia. And this whole, I don't know what you call them, a flock of crows
Oh God.
came in, and apparently they know about sugar. And they came and they took the sugar
They
packets
took the
and
packets?
the packets and flew away with them and proceeded to open the packets while all the other crows came in and pecked the sugar. And they knew to take the sugar packets and not the stevia.
That's crazy. Crows are
How?
very
I have
smart.
no idea. But they took all the sugar packets. There were probably like 10 of them in the little sugar container. And the reason that I say this is because sugar is so highly addictive, not only to human beings, but to birds, animals, more addictive than crack cocaine. And this is proven in lab studies with rats. So, can you retrain? You absolutely can, but you have to do it in a way that takes other things out. So, to retrain your taste buds, and a lot of people's taste buds are imprinted by the time they're 5 years old. And there is a syndrome called neophobia, which affects most children, where they don't want to try anything new,
Right.
at a certain age because they're set in their ways. They know what they like and they're fearful to try new things. So it's really important that we expose children in particular to a variety of different flavor profiles before the age of 5. Eat the baby food pears, which are really tasty, that we stop giving them the baby food spinach, or the baby food meat. Like we have to stay, we have to keep doing
Right.
that, even if they reject it. It takes like between 7 to 17 times of trying, and we just have to keep trying. And the same thing goes for adults.
Yeah.
Some adults' taste buds got imprinted by the time they were 5 years old and never changed. But there's a pattern, and I talk about it in my book of the types of foods you eat. You eat bitter, sour, umami, and you cut out sugar and all like foods that can break down as starch in your body. And you also cut out all processed food, alcohol, and a few other things. And you do that for 8 days. Anybody can do something for eight
Right.
days, but in
Right.
8 days,
So you're
we
resetting it at that point.
yeah, we can see significant change because you're swapping out the things that you shouldn't have for the things that you should have that will help to impart these taste buds in your palate.
And I have to say I can vouch for what you were saying with the kids. Like with my 3 kids, I was adamant, like really serious about just giving them everything to try. And I mean, I don't know if I'm just lucky or it really works. Literally, my kids, as far as like vegetables and fruit goes, they will eat everything. They all the time, like from whatever age, they could have a bowl of salad. They were fine. They love broccoli. But then at the same time, I've seen kids that are trained at a young age where they're just given the chicken nuggets
Yeah.
and the French fries, and that's all they know. Like maybe you try once or twice and they refuse the vegetables, and they really that's all they can eat. That's how they're set up for that kind of food forever unless they grow up and they decide that they want to change, you know?
I mean, it's a big, when they're young, it's incumbent on us. And there are ways around that too. I remember when my kids were young, my daughter was a really good eater. She would try everything, but my son definitely went through this whole neophobia phase and it was really tough. I mean, I had to really struggle with him, but what I did find is there were certain things that he really loved. Like the kid would eat broccoli like it was going out of style. Like he would eat raw, not cooked spinach, but raw spinach. So I could always count on making him a spinach salad and he would eat it. He'd always eat a Caesar salad. So you can also just kind of like
Find at
drill
least a
on the things,
few.
yeah, the things they love. And even the chicken nuggets, we just figured out a way to make them healthier,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I was on a show called Recipe Rehab, and we would take family recipes and just improve them. You can still make a chicken nugget, just get a good chicken breast, and you can make a great tasting crust. We use a combination of flax meal, so you're getting good fats. And I would do also things like pesto, where I would add, he loves pesto, so I would add spinach into my pesto and arugula. And those bitter greens are part of that retraining. So
Right.
there's simple
This
ways to
way.
do it. You just have to be diligent and
You have to be
give it
diligent.
the priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. Like you were saying, you don't like the word diet, right? Your philosophy is more like, let's eat healthier and cleaner and just have a plan, which I love, like sustainable. Because I just feel like with a lot of these diets, it's like, oh, I'm gonna do 2 weeks of just juicing. I'm gonna do 1 week of this. It's not sustainable. So the moment you're done with that plan, you're running out trying to like, oh, I'm craving this. I haven't had bread for 2 weeks. I haven't had this.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I completely agree with you that we just need to do those smart swaps and create like a system where we can actually sustain for life. So can you tell us more about that? Like what can we do to kind of just have a plan where we can eat healthier on a regular basis versus these very, very serious, strict diets?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really what my book, Eat Like You Give a Fork, is all about. It's, a system for being able to eat regularly that's sustainable. So I walk you through 8 principles, starting with, stocking your fridge and rehabbing your pantry. You've got to start from a place that encourages a healthy lifestyle. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like a wardrobe, right? The ladies can appreciate this. If you have a great basics in your wardrobe, you can put together so many different outfits. And think of your pantry and your fridge the same way. If you're stocking good lean proteins and you've got a rainbow of colors of fruits and vegetables, and you've got, single ingredient grains, which I love, get, your single ingredient grains that are unprocessed, your rices, your oats, your, you know, bulgur wheat, your farro, ancient grains, your quinoa, things like that. And then you have good quality fats like good extra virgin olive oil, pure coconut oil, you know, flax meal, avocado, good nuts and seeds, like all of those really healthy fats. Then you can just mix and match.
Right.
And it's not really rocket science, but if you have an empty refrigerator, you're going to be hungry and you're going to just
You're gonna
want to
go
go
for the
out.
worst thing in your pantry, right? Because you're starving.
Yeah, and if you stock junk, you'll eat junk.
Yep.
So we really try and make it so that like the desserts, and I believe, the last chapter in the book is the 90-10 rule. And 90% of the time you eat, like this, you eat to thrive is what I say. And 10% you eat whatever the fork you want, because we are human and we should celebrate and we should have the cake and we should have whatever mom's cooking, if mom's cooking, and we should have whatever grandma's cooking, and we should be able to never associate food with guilt or being bad. There's no such thing as bad food, or bad people for eating that food. We really have to take that lexicon out of our
Yeah.
vocabulary.
I love
Uh,
that.
because this morning I had 2 pieces of fantastic house-made sourdough rye bread. And I'm not going to feel guilty for that. Like, bread is the simplest form of nutrition that was ever created for us, you know? So I think we just get it twisted a little bit. We get so down on ourselves, and then we sort of like let go
Yeah.
of the reins. But there's absolutely room for the things we love, and that contributes to metabolic flexibility. You know, you don't want to eat at a calorie deficit all the time because your metabolism will slow down.
Yes.
So every once in a while, you actually do want to eat a little bit more food. And we know that from the bodybuilding world. That's part of bodybuilding is you do what's called a refeed at least, you know, once a week, and you eat those extra calories, and that's actually part of your ability to have a happy and healthy metabolism.
I love that. That's what I try like Monday through, the middle of the week. It's like I try to stick, to the regular, like healthier. Then it's like on a Friday or Saturday night, I'm like, okay, it's okay. I can treat myself a little bit and then we go
Yeah.
from there. And I have to say, like, I mean, I'm fine with red meat and I will have red meat, but okay, a lot of times when we go get a burger, I will be the one that will, request the impossible meat because in my head, I'm thinking, this is healthier, this is better. But then you hear so many different things, the sodium, and then it's actually the calories are higher. And I just want to kind of ask you, based on your experience, is it a healthier option? Are these things healthier, or are we just better off having like a grass-fed beef burger?
Well, I want to honor the people who don't eat meat for a second
Okay.
because, you know, for religious reasons or for ethical
Right.
reasons or just simply don't like meat. You know, there are people that are going to want something that is non-meat.
Substitution. Yeah.
And I honor that. I understand it. I was a vegan myself for 5 years. I was a vegetarian for several years. So let's talk about that for a second. What is the solution? To me, the solution is not a substitute meat product. It is a product made from plants, actual plants that's not like made in a lab. And I wrote a pretty extensive blog about comparing Impossible and Beyond to regular beef burgers. And from a nutritional standpoint, there's no advantage to eating Impossible or Beyond. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And the thing that concerns me, particularly about Impossible, is that they use genetically modified soy. And I am very leery of most genetically modified foods. I have a scientist father who is very leery of it and has shared with me why he is, and I understand his perspective. But also, when you look at genetically modified soy, it becomes very disease resistant and weather resistant. And so the use of extensive pesticides are required, and glyphosate is a big one. And glyphosate is a huge contributor to so many diseases and also just not good for the ground, not good for the soil. It kills the topsoil. So it renders it basically nutritionless after several years. And so it's a really dangerous cycle. So I would say, and you can follow the cue of so many other cultures, including our Middle Eastern culture, where things like lentils and garbanzo beans and even whole soy is used. I don't want people to think that you can't have soy, but it's this genetically modified processed soy that's the problem. You can eat, you know, tempeh, which is whole fermented soy, which I am a big fan of. You can even have organic tofu, but it's just these processed meat burgers that are supposed to look and taste like
Right.
actual meat that I have an issue with.
Okay. That's what I figured.
Falafel,
I love
falafel is
falafel.
known
Yeah.
for falafel in Egypt. That is like the OG veggie burger, you
Yes.
know, so high in protein. In Egypt, we fast without meat and dairy in the Coptic faith for, almost half the year. And we lean into garbanzo beans and lentils and all kinds of different pulses, beans, fava beans are a big part of our diet. And these are all high in protein, very umami, and they're just plants.
Yeah, and they're good for you. So it's a
Yeah.
great option. Now, what about milk? Because I mean, I know the controversial situation with the cow's milk, but what about I get so confused with like the soy milk, the almond milk, the oat milk. I generally have almond milk, and I know a lot of people do oat milk. My daughter was, and I was like, no, wait, you shouldn't do oat milk because I've heard oat milk is not good.
Overwhelming, isn't it?
It
Um,
really is.
yeah, I think so. Just my general take on it is I know people will say like human beings are the only life forms that eat, or that drink milk, like aside from like baby cows, baby animals, baby sheep. But here's my general stance. I mean, I take whey protein, and whey comes from dairy. So
Okay.
I would be a hypocrite if I told you to avoid all dairy. I think that you have to look at the source of it. Definitely opt for organic because, again, the higher up the food chain you go, if you're eating the animal or drinking a byproduct of the animal, then the animal should be eating what nature intended. And it should be as clean as possible. So opt for organic whenever you can. And as far as plant-based milks, really look at the label. I make my own almond milk and plant and oat milk, and I make a pistachio milk. I make all kinds of different milks because I have one of these little machines that makes the milk. And what I like about that is there's no additives. So there's no carrageenan, there's no soy or oils or, anything inflammatory or filling or fillers in there, gums, for example. And I think that's where we get a little bit sidewinded. And most of what you're buying is water and fillers. So I believe that you can enjoy all of those different things. Just make sure the source is good. And even if you have a high-powered blender, you make it just in your blender. Add a little bit of pure vanilla extract. You can sweeten it a little bit with either coconut sugar or I use stevia. You could even add a little cocoa to it if you want more of a chocolate flavor, but make your own.
Oh, wow. Never thought about
Recipe for
that.
homemade almond milk in the book. You don't need a fancy contraption for it. You just need a blender and a strainer.
Okay. I have to try that. That
Yeah,
seems it seems easy enough.
very easy. And the debate about oats, oats tend to be high in glyphosate, again, that pesticide that I mentioned to you. Even traces of glyphosate in organic oats, but I feel like just like anything, you want to just eat a wide variety of foods. I wouldn't encourage you to eat tuna fish every day because it's high in mercury.
Right.
So if you have it like once a week or once every other week, are you going to be okay? Probably.
Okay.
So we're just talking about eating a variety of things.
Right.
So
Right.
if you like oat milk, drink the oat milk, but I encourage you to just again look at the source and think about making your own most of the time.
Okay. Okay.
It takes 5 minutes. It's less. It's literally like press the
Okay.
button.
I have to try it so I can believe you.
Yeah.
What about the word organic? When you go to the shopping aisle and you see this whole section and it says organic, but is it really 100% guaranteed that it is a healthy, much healthier, and it's free 100% of pesticides?
So the answer might not make you happy. But the answer to both of your questions is no. So organic, we have to, when the organic campaign first came out, the National Organic Program, I mean, I was actually in the grocery world at that time, um, back in the early 90s. And it was really, a campaign more about the treatment of the product
Okay.
and the condition of the soil. So, when you farm with organic practices, now it's part of the USDA program. USDA certification, you are only allowed to use certain types of pesticides and certain types of fertilizers, and you're only allowed to use them during certain cycles of of actual the growth and harvesting. So there's a lot of rules around how you use it, but there's absolutely pesticides that are allowed in organic farming, and there's absolutely no, you know, direct correlation between the health merit of an organic certified product versus a non. It's more about the practices. So you can have an organic Oreo, with tons of sugar in it. I've seen them walk the aisles in your favorite, health food store. And it's not called Oreo, but it's basically an Oreo. It's an organic cream-filled chocolate
Right.
cookie that has just as much sugar and just as much flour and just as much like really empty calories as a non-organic. It's just one happens to have like approved pesticides and one doesn't.
Oh, I don't think a lot of people know that because they automatically assume because it has the label organic that it's, completely pesticide free. Now, what would you say, what are the fruits or vegetables with the highest pesticide that we need to, like, if we have to choose, maybe we can't financially afford buying everything organic with, so that it's a little bit better. What would be the foods and vegetables that we really need to make sure that we are
I think
cleaning better or
yeah, we're prioritizing foods, organic foods that are porous. Okay, so strawberry,
strawberries?
number one, should be organic. Um, and really, like from there, things like mushrooms are super porous. Um, and if it's got a skin, if it is like a banana, I would say doesn't have to be, prioritized. It's got a
Mm.
thick skin. Avocados have a thick skin. Anything with a thick skin, probably not as much.
Okay.
So, but no, this I created a product called Eat Cleaner. I sold the company last year, but it's the only fruit and vegetable wash that's actually lab proven to remove over 99% of the pesticide residue and 95% of the pesticide residue from strawberries. So, you can still buy non-organic and wash it properly and get a lot of that residue off. But again, I don't want to scare people from eating fruits and vegetables because, the quantities that we would need to eat in order for it to become like a huge problem would be like incredibly significant. It's more like where you're getting a large percentage, like juices.
Okay.
When you're juicing, you're getting a lot of concentrated produce. Juicing really requires the product to be as clean as possible. But nobody's going to sit there and eat like 30 oranges,
Yeah. What about
So
lettuce? Because I feel like lettuce, you're eating the whole thing and you might have like if you have a salad like every single night, is that something that you would suggest getting like organic lettuce?
I think, organic whenever possible, but still washing it properly
Yeah.
makes a big difference. Because aside from the pesticides, you have organic matter that can contribute to pathogenic bacteria like E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria, which
Right.
can be really deadly. So leafy greens are the number one cause of foodborne illness. So super important to clean the greens, but more than just for the pesticides, for the bacterial, potential contamination too.
Okay. And then your product, Eat Cleaner, where can we purchase that if we're interested?
Uh, It's
Is
now
it
owned,
at stores now or
yeah, it's now owned by Clean Boss. So you can go to eatcleaner.com and Amazon and on the website as well.
okay. Okay, perfect. What about the other thing that I commonly see is like those all these labels, grass fed, grass finished, free
Yeah,
range,
yeah,
cage free,
yeah.
no preservatives. I mean, are these like should we really be paying more for this, or are these just marketing gimmicks? So is it like, because I keep reading so many different things, like, oh, when you're
Yeah,
getting a box of, because I watched one special documentary about the chickens and the eggs, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're only buying cage free like from now on. But then I read another article that says, oh, you know that they're only like, they're out of the cage for like 2 minutes and then they're
yeah.
thrown back in, so they're not really cage free. So I don't even know what to believe anymore.
There's a lot of marketing hype, Pearl, and it is very confusing. And you're right, cage free really doesn't mean anything. It means that they could have let the hens out of their cages for literally 2 minutes.
That's horrible.
So, you know, generally speaking, the best category that you could buy is pasture raised.
Okay.
Pasture raised means they're literally out in a field. Pasture raised and organic for chickens, grass fed and finished for cattle or for cows. Grass fed, they could potentially only be grass fed for part of their lives, and that's it. But grass fed and finished means that it's for the duration of their upbringing.
I don't think so. It actually says that on the label.
Grass fed
Oh, I don't think I
and
paid
finished.
attention to the finish. That's interesting.
I
Okay.
know.
It's
Because you know
so
what I
funny because you
mean?
just see the first word and you're like, okay, grass fed and must be, and you just grab it. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, maybe it was for like their first
Well,
meal.
marketing, I mean, companies are savvy. They
Yeah.
know what's selling. They're
Yeah.
not dumb, so they're cluing into these little triggers that people are looking for to buy. I mean, I challenge you to go into the store and find any eggs that don't at least say cage free these days.
Yeah.
Almost all of them say cage free.
Because or before it wasn't like that. You would just
It
find
wasn't
like
like
one
that.
box, maybe two different brands. Now it's
Yeah.
like all of them.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm always going to say, like, if you can't find pasture raised, like, opt for the organic. Again,
Okay.
like the higher up the food chain you go, the more important it is that the animal's eating what it's supposed to be eating. Cattle is supposed to be eating grass, so if you buy it organic, at least you know that the meal that it's eating, the food that it's eating is supposed to be as clean as possible. But more than cow, I really like bison. Bison is always eating grass because of the way that it's raised, and it's a very lean meat, and
Does it
very
taste
high,
similar? I've never tried a
very
bison. Does it
similar.
taste?
I think it tastes far better.
Okay.
Very similar and very delicious, and very high in omega 3s and very good for you. So I'm a big fan of bison. I have a great recipe for a bison kofta burger in my book. I just made these shawarma kofta meatballs on my Instagram that are like amazing, amaze balls, I should say. And bison is becoming more and more available in your markets. I know Costco sells it. So bison is one of my favorite red meats.
Okay.
And then, wild caught versus farm raised or sustainably raised, there are sustainably raised, farm raised fishes out there. And the contention is that those aquacultures are more well maintained than wild caught. I think, again, you have to really understand, like, what are they feeding those fish? Are they feeding them krill and plants and what they would normally eat, little fish in their regular habitat?
Habitat.
Are they eating these radioactive pellets that they're being given in farm raised conditions where 90% of those farm raised fish have lice? I don't want to touch that stuff, you know? So know what you're eating. And if you're going out to eat, ask the question. My kids know, like, if it's on the menu, mom's going to ask about it. If it doesn't say wild caught, I'm going to ask, is it wild caught? And if they're like, well, let me go to the back and see, I
Then
know for sure
it's
it's not.
not. Yeah. So we need to really be aware and really look at the nutritional panel and understand it and figure out the labels constantly. But it's like all this information, I just feel like it's so overwhelming. And you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it gets to a point like right now when I was telling you, I moved my daughter into her first apartment, and it's like, her going grocery shopping, and I'm trying to like teach her like, no, 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 don't get this, get this. And it's hard for me to even explain to her. But I mean, how if we had like the key points just to look at the labels, what would be the basic things that for anything? I know it's like if we can't read the first three things or pronounce it, then it's probably not good for us. I mean, that's one thing. But what would be the key thing to look at, besides if it's like sugar has been added to it, if we're just trying to be conscious about the food labels when we're like rushing through and grocery shopping?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a good rule of thumb to shop the perimeter of the store, which means the outer circle of the store, and make that your core, because that's where you're going to find the simplest things, meat, chicken, fish, vegetables, fruit, not in a package necessarily, but just the product. When you go to the deli, you want to make sure that they're not adding nitrates and nitrites and these preservatives. And you're always going to be, by and large, I shouldn't say always, but by and large, you're going to be better off buying something that's being cut in front of you versus in a package, because in a package, they have to ensure longevity. So they're
Right.
going to be adding things to it. So I'm personally a huge fan of the farmer's market. I like to shop at the farmer's market as much as possible. I know that when I go to mine, I'm buying produce that was grown and picked probably the day before, so it's retaining its nutrient content. Most cities have a farmer's market. It's becoming so popular now. So try and source from there. I also think it's important, like, we don't have to get like we don't have to reinvent what we love and do something different every single day of the week. Like, I think it's also like you get your rituals. I get an order of meat that comes to me delivered, and it's grass-fed and finished, and it's wild caught, and it's, pasture raised, and I don't have to reinvent the wheel on that. I just know it's coming every time. And then I'll fill in with, fresh produce. I'll fill in with, I like fermented food. Fermented food's a big part of my diet. So I'll always make sure we have like something pickled, or I'll make pickles, and I'll get, kefir or Greek yogurt or Lebni, and have that as part of our meals. So like, there are certain just categories that I always lean into. And I don't, I just really try and not do all the packaged stuff for
Yeah.
me.
How would your
You'd
pantry look
see,
like?
you'd see a lot of protein powder. My husband one day, he was just like, can we just consolidate all this protein powder? You'd see a lot of protein powder. You'd see powdered almond butter and powdered peanut butter and regular peanut butter too. You'd see lentils, cooked lentils, which is an easy meal when we don't want to eat meat. You'd see nuts and seeds, you'd see granola, you'd see
Okay.
rice, you'd see pasta, you'd see bulgur wheat, you'd see couscous, you'd see quinoa, tuna fish, mackerel, anchovies. You'd see some canned beets. You'd see fava beans, because that's what I grew up on. So those are like my pantry staples. Oh, and you'd even see like I'm a hot sauce fiend, so you'd see
Me
a ton
too.
of hot sauce. Melinda's is my favorite, and you'd see like, just things that help to make your meal better. So like sometimes I'll do aseptic broth. Sometimes I'll do canned tomatoes. Sometimes I'll do um I'll have the beets like I mentioned, and I use that as a substitute for fat in baked goods. Applesauce, things like that. So foods that you can still identify.
Right.
Now, I am not a martyr. Okay. Let's just not get it twisted, because I don't want people to be like, well, she doesn't sound like very much fun. I leave, we do have some stuff but I don't buy it. I let my husband do that. And if my kids want something, like I let them buy it, but I won't personally buy it, but I'm not going to throw a tantrum that we have potato chips in the pantry,
Right.
or we have cereal that I wouldn't eat. I just don't touch it. And it's okay. Like I have trained myself enough where I don't need it. But if I really want it, I'm not going to hurt myself over
Right.
it. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And that's living the 90-10 rule.
I love that rule. I think that's a really good way to think about it because you're giving yourself a little bit of leeway where you can actually treat yourself on those occasions. Like you go on vacation or it's like a special event. And at the
We went
same,
to a
yeah,
friend's house last night for dinner, okay? They made us a beautiful meal, roasted peppers filled with goat cheese and lobster risotto and a beautiful salad with nectarines and candied almond or pecans and blueberries, and then finished with this gorgeous almond meal tort. And I'm like, can you imagine if we went over there and said, "Oh no, I can't eat that. I'm
yeah,
sorry. Oh no, I can't eat that. I'm sorry. Oh no, I can't eat that. I'm sorry." How devastating would that be? Like that's just wrong, in my
yeah,
opinion. I wasn't raised that way. I'm like, you eat what's in front of you, and you do it gratefully because somebody put a lot of love and intention in that.
exactly. I totally agree
And
with you.
that almond tort was so good, but I had a piece like a sliver,
Yeah.
you
You don't need to
know?
have like this much. You need
No.
to like just taste it so you know you're not, like not allowing yourself not to have it, but you're actually experiencing the taste of it.
And us eating it together, I'm telling you, there is this beautiful thing that happens when you come to the table with other people and enjoy something. You actually eat less,
Yeah.
studies show, because you're taking your time.
Yeah.
You're not
And having
gulping up.
conversation.
You're having conversation. You eat about 30% less with people than without. And you are communing, you're talking, you're connecting, and that food is having enough time to digest and do its work. You're not just gulping it down. A
Right.
lot of digestion happens in your mouth. When you chew something, and your mom was right, like chew slowly, not just so you don't choke, but so you can actually digest that food and have it work for you. Because
Yeah.
proper digestion and breaking down of those nutrients is equally as important as what we're eating. So, all those things happen when you eat with other people. That's why I'm such a big fan of like, you're going to have an indulgent meal, eat it with someone else.
Someone. And like I hate it if you go like to a restaurant and they try to like rush you. It's like before you even sat down, it's like the bread's there, the appetizer's there. And it's like the whole meal, like you go, it's like especially like if you go to Europe, like it takes like 3 hours. It's all about
Yeah.
having a conversation, enjoying the meal. Like, I don't want to go to a nice restaurant and be there for like 45 minutes and just inhale all this food and leave. Like that's not
Right.
part of the
Yeah.
process.
It is an event, when you go out to eat for a lot of people. We were back in Egypt in January, and I took my family for the first time, and we took some friends of ours, and everybody just kept commenting on how good the food was. I mean, the taste of the food is different there.
Yeah.
There is an abundance of care and freshness, and just it's different. And you taste it. It's palpable.
I actually
And
experienced, I traveled to Egypt like a year and a half ago. And I have to tell you, it was incredible. I went with my family. And one of the things we love falafel. First of all, we were shocked that falafel was like part of breakfast.
yeah,
Like it's like you go to the breakfast buffet and it's a whole platter of everything you can imagine. But I really like the falafel, the Egyptian falafel, which I'm going to bother you for a recipe because
yeah,
they use the fava beans, right? Instead of the
that's right.
chickpeas. And
I have
I
a
loved
recipe
it.
for it in my book that I'm going to
Okay.
give you. Yeah,
Perfect. Perfect.
yeah, it's things like that where food doesn't have to be complicated. I think one of the best meals that I ever have had in my entire life was in Italy, and it was the most humble plate of creamy polenta.
Oh,
And this polenta was like, it made me want to cry. I mean, it was so good. And polenta is just corn grits, basically. It's cornmeal. And I don't know, just the way it was seasoned and how creamy the texture was. And, I'm sure they put a fair amount of cheese in there, mascarpone, but it was like simple,
yeah.
probably when you really break it down, two or three ingredients. And that's where I say, like, it doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be done with care with good quality ingredients. And that, I think that's where Alice Waters, she's really credited as being like the chef of modern, American cuisine. I got to meet her a long time ago and talk to her, and her food is just all about simplicity,
Mhm.
but elevating those individual ingredients.
Right. No, I think that's a great way. I mean, I have so many other questions to ask you, and I know we're running out of time, but let me see. Um, Last question. And what advice do you have for all of us in this crazy rushed world if we want to make sure that we can make kind of prep some kind of snack or food on a regular basis so that we can avoid, like if we're at work, so we can avoid that fast food, drive through or whatnot. What are some like easy things or for like the kids' lunches that we can just prep ahead? Because I know like Sunday prep is like a great way to do it, like kind of start everything so that if it's
Yeah,
there. And I've also noticed now in my fridge, when I get carrots and I cut it and it's there, and the cucumbers, it's so much easier. It's like labeled easy. My kids will actually grab those carrots versus if
yes.
they're just big carrots sitting in a drawer, like no child is going to come and actually chop a carrot and eat it, you know?
That's right. No, you said it well. Like, you want to prep some things that just sit in the refrigerator that are at eye level that your kids and family can grab, that are easy snacks that also will go the distance in the lunchbox, for the day. I love like hearty vegetables, like snacking, those little snacking cucumbers, the bell peppers, little baby bells, the little baby tomatoes, carrots. We love jicama. It's really nice and fresh, and it's actually got more vitamin C than oranges, believe it or not. And then a side of guacamole or hummus, or I have this great recipe for a white bean dip with sun-dried tomato in my book. So some type of dip, or something nutrient dense with
It's
protein
just
in it
grab
that
and
you can
go.
dip into it and grab and go. I like crunchy chickpeas. I have a recipe for those in my book, crunchy garbanzo beans, that you can do in
Did you
the
put that
oven
in the
or
air
in the
fryer?
oven. Yep, you
Okay.
can do it in the air fryer. We like jerky. We'll do, just if you don't have time to do any prep, get some, nice turkey jerky or beef jerky. Just make sure it doesn't have like any, a lot of high sodium added to it. There are lower sodium options. Nuts are always great. I know some schools are nut free, so you can do sunflower butter. You can buy packets, like portion packets of sunflower butter are great. And you could even make like just a simple sunflower butter sandwich with a little bit of honey or low sugar jam. So, there's
Option.
literally infinite number of options. And I think what's really fun that I always used to do with my kids, that I still do now to this, well, now they do it on their own, but do it with them. Don't just be the person that does the prep and doesn't include them in it. Because when you include them, most kids are very creative and like to have their hands on food. And
Mhm.
then when they're in the kitchen with you, they're learning a life skill. So make it also a family thing where you get in there and do it yourself. I've seen people really get extra and use like cookie cutters to cut out little shapes in their sandwiches and stuff. I mean, that what kid doesn't like to
Yeah.
cut out, to do that?
Oh, I
And
miss those days. That's
they'll
so
have
cute.
pride in that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Um, Now tell us about your latest product, the superfood sprinkle.
I am so excited about this. So I mentioned Eat Cleaner. I built and sold that company last year. I started it with my dad. And I mentioned, going back to Egypt and really like re-falling in love with Egyptian food. But I was raised with this ingredient called black cumin seed. A lot of people know it, and a lot of people don't know it. It's sometimes called black seed, but it has so many incredible benefits from helping with indigestion and skin issues and high blood pressure and diabetes and even has been proven to shrink cancer tumors. And
Wow.
it has a wonderfully kind of like almost smoky flavor, a little nutty, just very robust flavor. And when you pair it with other ingredients, just makes like this incredible spice blend. And so it's a chef blend, I guess you could call it, of really powerful antioxidants, adaptogens. I have mushroom powder, there's lion's mane, reishi, and chaga in it. There's kelp flake, black and white sesame seeds, nutritional yeast, turmeric,
Wow.
just a laundry list of awesome ingredients. And we have two blends that we're launching with the Chef's Kiss and the Hot Stuff blend, which is a little spicy, has black mustard seed and cayenne pepper in it. And those will be launching towards the first week of September. But really excited because it's like just my heritage and where health meets culinary, which is where I've lived in my career for 30 years. And we're giving 1% of all sales back to the farmers in Egypt that grow
Oh.
this seed. And cool enough, in Arabic, it's called Habbat al-Baraka, which means the blessing seed. So we're hoping to bless people with good health and flavor, and also bless the farmers that grow it.
This is incredible. I am so excited for you. This is, I mean,
I'm excited too.
this is so, I can't wait to try it. This is amazing. Good for you. Like, I love it. You just going
It's so,
after a next thing.
I'll tell you, it's really tasty. We got to premiere it, do a little soft launch at the Fit Expo this past weekend. Got unbelievable feedback. People were just like,
I saw
wow,
some on
so
clips on
good.
Instagram, and I will leave your Instagram on the show notes. But you listeners, you need to check her out because she'll do like fun recipes, fun like and just your energy is incredible. I love like watching you online on social media and just and I'm always constantly like sending you because you will have these like cool things like if you want the recipe, send me this word or send me this emoji, and I'm always like
Yeah.
there like sending it.
Oh,
I love to
yay.
cook,
I
so.
love it.
Yeah,
I
no,
love
your
it.
energy is just contagious. I love it. I love
Well,
it.
right back at you. I love how we met. We literally sat down next to each other at a conference and we became fast friends, which was
It's
awesome.
crazy, right? It's just crazy. It was our energies together. Well, I mean, I have to say today I've gained so much knowledge from you. I think our listeners feel the same way. They might be a little overwhelmed about what in the world can we eat in this day and age, but it just seems like kind of nothing is safe anymore. But I don't want the listeners to go away thinking after this podcast, just worrying about every single food you buy, every label
Yeah.
you look at,
Yeah.
everything you eat. Our goal today, the two of us, is just to help you become more educated and be aware of what's important that you put in your body, because our body is like a temple, and it's our responsibility to care for it, not just with nutritious food, but also by staying hydrated, getting enough sleep, exercising, managing our stress. We need to take care of our body.
Yeah.
And like we said earlier, start by making minor changes to your diet. Remove that processed foods from your pantry. Consider setting aside together, like on Sundays with your family, and start meal prepping for the week so that eating and cooking becomes fun and an enjoyable experience for the whole family.
If people were to take one step today, just one step, eat something green today. Eat something green. Because when you eat something green, you're eating usually something that has a bitter flavor, and that's going to be one more step in retraining your taste buds
Yes.
and cutting the cravings. And the most nutrient dense foods per calorie are green foods. So just eat something green, add some spinach to your eggs, add, extra greens to your salad, add a little arugula to your, burger, whatever it is, just have something green and try and do that every day. And just making that step can make a big difference.
They just baby steps, you guys. Listen, just have something green today. That's the first step to becoming and eating healthier and cleaner. Thank you again for being on Female Fluence. All the links will be in my show notes. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Don't seek perfection. Just seek the practice. Practice makes progress. We try and get worked up and get angsty about everything. That's not the answer either. Because at the end of the day, we're just here to live a really forking good life. And if you take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt, I think it makes it a lot more flavorful.
Thank you everyone for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at Female Fluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Pearl Mashur. Until we talk next time.